So let's talk about the differences between a bookkeeper and an accountant. So why the confusion? Now, the reason why there's a bit of confusion is because sometimes it's quite difficult to detail the difference between a bookkeeper and an accountant, because a lot of the time the two jobs actually overlap. So if you was to ask a bookkeeper what they do in their day-to-day, and then you were asking an accountant what they did in their day-to-day, you'll find that sometimes there are similarities between the two roles, but there are very, very clear distinctions in some cases between what an accountant can do and what a bookkeeper can do. So let's take a look at what a bookkeeper can do first. So what does a bookkeeper do? Typically, and I say this typically because it's very, very generalised, because a bookkeeper can do a lot of different things. So typically, a bookkeeper will be involved in the analysing of data. So the input of data onto an accounting system or an Excel spreadsheet, for instance, and then their job would be to make sure that, for instance, invoices are put onto the system correctly, that they're coded correctly to the right code. So you wouldn't want an invoice for rent going to repairs, for example. You'd want that to sit in the rent nominal. Also, their job is to make sure that they've accounted for VAT correctly. So where you've got 20% of VAT on an invoice, you'd want to make sure that that has been correctly allocated to the VAT control account, for example. A lot of what a bookkeeper also gets involved with is in the bank reconciliation. So the posting of payments out of the bank, receipts out of the bank, and also reconciling that back to an actual physical bank statement. And what we mean by reconciling is just making sure that what's shown on the bank in the bank statement actually agrees to what's shown in the bank in the accounting system that's being used. Now, bookkeepers might also get involved with preparing the VAT return. Now, that might just be simply the drafting of the VAT return, or it might be the actual submission of the VAT return as well. So what's involved there is making sure that the client has accounted for VAT correctly in their VAT return and making sure that everything's been posted to the right place within the accounting system in use. And some of the other things that bookkeepers get involved with is credit control. So for instance, making sure that a client is receiving payments from customers on time, and also chasing those customers where that receipt hasn't been made. So for instance, sending out statements to customers or ringing them up to make sure that they're going to be paying on time, etc. So all in all, if we were to generalise what a bookkeeper does, it is the analysing of data and making sure that that data in the core system is correct. And I'm going to caveat that by saying that that's just a few of the things that bookkeepers do. So a very, very generalised picture to give you an idea of what bookkeepers do. So what does an accountant do then? And why does that differ to a bookkeeper? So an accountant would typically be involved with the likes of year-end processes. So the likes of preparing year-end financial statements or year-end corporation tax returns. They might also get involved with the likes of the VAT return preparation or submission, similar to a bookkeeper. But also, what an accountant tends to do that's a little bit different to a bookkeeper in some circumstances is that they're involved with analysing the data. So actually looking at the data and interpreting that for clients and then giving advice. So that could be the likes of advice on a cash flow, or advice on KPIs or how that particular business has performed in that year, or advising the client on how much tax to put away. And equally, when it comes to looking at what an accountant actually does, there are different types of accountant. So again, it's very difficult to pinpoint exactly what an accountant does, because you could specialise in forensic accounting, you could specialise in tax accounting, you could be purely a financial reporting accountant who specialises on understanding all the different IFRS standards and UK GAAP, etc. But overall, an accountant will get involved with, again, the interpreting of data for clients and a lot of advice work. So all of your advisory services typically are provided by an accountant, whereas if we look back at bookkeeper, they would be typically involved with inputting the data onto a system. And the thing is as well that a bookkeeper's job doesn't just stop there. There are additional advisory services that bookkeepers also offer, that accountants offer, hence the confusion. So what are the key differences between a bookkeeper and accountant? Now, if we look at qualifications between bookkeepers and accountants, you could have somebody who has studied with the ICB, so the Institute Certified Bookkeepers, to become a bookkeeper. And you might have somebody who's studied with the AAT, so the Association of Accounts Technicians, to become an accountant. Or equally, they might have studied with the CPAA, the Certified Public Association of Accountants. So let's take a look at the CPAA quickly. So the CPAA represents, regulates and supports accountants in practice, and everything that the association does actually revolves around this. The CPAA actively engage in dialogue with UK government agencies, lenders, businesses, employers and other professional accountancy bodies, and they help to put forward the opinions, views and concerns of the practicing accountant. They also offer a host of valuable benefits to each of their members, from insurances to CPD offerings. Now currently the CPAA qualifications are broken down between level 3 and level 4, and if we look at level 3, the Certificate in Introductory Public Practice Accounting. This covers regulation and ethics in accounting, bookkeeping and supported tax services in practice. Whereas level 4, which is the Diploma in Public Practice Accounting and Tax, also covers ethics, compliance and risk in public practice, but also preparation of financial statements for clients and applied tax. Now I've left a link to the CPAA website in the comment section below if you want to go ahead and check them out. But otherwise, let's get back to the key differences between bookkeepers and accountants. Now if we focus on bookkeeping, we're typically looking at the likes of payroll production, we're looking at invoicing, receipts and also data analysis into the system. And whereas if we look at accountants, we're typically looking at budgets, forecasts, interpreting of data, analysing that data and also helping the client to make decisions. So what are the different ways that you could become a bookkeeper or an accountant? Now we've already had a little look at the CPAA and what they offer and the qualifications that you can undertake with them, but there's also the ICB, the AAT, ICAW, CMA and plenty of other qualifications, and it's very important to do your research into each one of these and also the career opportunities that might be available to you with each one of those qualifications. Now if you like this video then please do give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing to the channel as always, and if you've got any questions about what we've covered today then leave them in the comment section below, and otherwise take care, I'll catch you at the next one.